All right. Yeah. Um, my name is Siabonga Klameni. A simple topic today: summary. um, so a simple thing. Obviously, I'll just introduce the topic, and we'll just try to understand in depth as to what a summary is and how to actually go about doing it, and we'll then work with a few articles to try and master the skill. Obviously, like I said, the route is simple. We know what a summary is, know how to do a summary, then we start applying the knowledge, and that will be it. Yeah. So in front of you now, there are two pictures. It's a 2-liter Coke and a 330 ml Coke. Oftentimes we use articles to do summaries. You're given an article, then you're asked to summarize it. So the 2-liter Coke would be the original article. Then the summary would be the 330 ml Coke. You may be wondering, why are we using Coke and what is the significance of the different sizes of these two soft drinks? Well, I'll take you through it. Now, a simple thing. Before I explain about the two pictures that you see, a summary is a shortened version of a text. So if, for instance, I have a page-long article and want to summarize it, the summary cannot be the same size, you know. But what is the most important thing is to always keep the main idea. Now, how do we keep the main idea would be discussed later. But now, if we look at this, coming back to the pictures in front of you, a 2-liter Coke is much bigger than the 330 ml. But what you may find similar here, or what is similar, is the taste. If you drink from the 2-liter Coke, the taste will be the same even when you drink from the 330 ml Coke. What does that tell you? The only thing or the only difference is the size, but the taste is maintained. Now, what is the significance of all this in our topic today? Whenever you're doing a summary, sorry about that. Whenever you're doing a summary, the only thing that should change is the size. But the taste is supposed to be maintained. So you keep the taste and reduce the size, just like here. The size is reduced when you go to the 330 ml, but the taste is the same. You can't tell the difference. If I can pour in a glass, the 330 ml, and then ask you to drink, still pour in a glass from the 2-liter Coke, ask you to drink, you wouldn't be able to tell me that this one is from the 330 ml Coke or the 2-liter Coke, which means they are the same, but the size is just different. So that's what you should be doing. That's a kind of summary that you should be producing. It should be the same or containing the same ideas with the original article. The only difference is supposed to be the size now of your summary. Now, how do we go about doing this? How do we achieve keeping the taste and reducing the size? Obviously, when given an article, the first thing is to find out the general idea contained in the article. The general idea contained in the article. How do you do that? Simple. You just read through the article. Then you understand, oh, this is what the author is trying to say. And then you get to understand also the attitude with which they are actually conveying this message. Now, the second time you go about reading this article, you have a specific purpose. You read the second time to actually identify the main points. Now that you know that this is the main idea contained, or this is the message that this author is trying to convey. But now, what are the main points that are driving this message? What are the main points that are driving this message? That is why, with the second step, you are going about trying to understand or identify the main points. Now, you can either go a paragraph by paragraph, heading by heading, or whatever the case may be, but it's advisable to go paragraph by paragraph, simply because each paragraph contains an idea that actually adds to the whole bigger message that the author is trying to convey. So what do you do here? If you go paragraph by paragraph, obviously the topic sentence is always carrying the main idea. Then there's a closing sentence towards the end of the paragraph. So already there, each paragraph has its own idea. That's how any piece of writing should be. Anyway, so you just go about collecting the main ideas. You collect. Oh, sorry about that. You collect the main ideas. Now that you have collected the main ideas, what do? You write them down. After identifying, obviously, you write them down. But here's a simple thing. Oh, sorry, an important one. You don't use the exact words. You don't cut and paste. You are supposed to write these in your own words. Keyword here is your own words. You write using your own words. You write using your own words. Because that's the main thing. If you keep the same words that the author has used, you won't achieve the summary, because you'll still be stuck with a lot of words, whilst the purpose is to reduce the number of words. So the more you use your own words, obviously your rephrasing should seek to produce a much shorter version, or a shortened version of the previous information. Now, as you continue, you've identified the main ideas, you've wrote them down. What information is supporting these main ideas? Because the main ideas don't just stand alone, you know. Because in the process of meaning making, obviously, these main ideas have to be supported by something to actually convey the message properly. So you also now identify the supporting ideas. Now, avoid working with a lot of information. If there's a lot of this, you just select the most relevant ones. I hope you're still with me and you are following through. Please do indicate if I'm moving too fast or too slow, or if you can't hear me, just indicate, or if you seek clarity in anything or anything of that sort, just do indicate. Available and happy to assist. Now, when you've written all your sentences, what should happen now? Already you know the general idea contained. So that's what you do. The overview, that's your starting point. The overview of everything should be your starting point. That's the first thing that we need to see, or whoever is reading through your summary should be seeing. An overview. Now, it's important that, now obviously you are summarizing and this is not your work. So we are working with someone else's intellectual property. So you don't appear as someone who's plagiarized, it's wise to mention the author. So and so suggest or claim that this and this is like this and that. It's important to acknowledge the original writer. So obviously that means you should now introduce the overview, acknowledge the author, and then the sentences summarizing the main ideas with key facts and figures. Now, at this point, you'll need to organize all the information in the most logical way. You might also have repeated ideas or details that you need to delete. So now that you have everything now at your disposal, it's it's everything that you need for the summary. Then you check for unwanted elements there. Can be repeated ideas. It can be errors that are there. So you just get rid of those. So it's now you going through to proofread and to edit your work. Because, okay, another thing, like I said, you're supposed to have a coherent and a flowing summary. What allows that? You need to include the linking words. What are these linking words that we're talking about? These are just simply conjunctions. Now, with conjunctions, it's just words like therefore, however, nevertheless, and so on and so forth. So to make it more coherent or to make this flow, it's important that you use these linking words. Now, sorry about that. Also avoid short sentences without any connection with them. So there must be, obviously, this linking words will create this concord or agreement between sentences and phrases, which allows your summary to flow. Because linking words are important in anything that you're writing, as much as it is, they are important in the summary. So it's important to use these conjunctions to create this agreement between sentences or between phrases, so that this that you're writing flows and we are able as readers to follow your thoughts. Now, here's the whole thing. That this is the summary of what's important. Now, you don't have to copy the whole article. That sounds like a cliche, but I think it's important to emphasize it. You paraphrase. Paraphrasing is rephrasing the paragraphs or the information that you are working with to, in simple terms, is to write in your own words what you have at your disposal. So you use your own words as far as possible. Then, like I said, when you're acknowledging the author, you can say the author claims that or states or suggests that. Then you continue. Oh, sorry. Now, if you quote directly, now obviously use the proper um, use your quotation marks. Now, I wouldn't really advise you to always quote when you're doing a summary because it adds on the number of words. And also, like, unless it's necessary, I don't really advise it. Unless you see that this will actually paint the picture better. But try as far as possible to avoid quoting directly. Now, here's an important one. No matter how interesting you think the discourse is, no matter how flawed you think it is, no matter how much of your opinion rises as you engage with the information, don't add your own information when you're doing a summary. Do not add your own opinion when you're doing a summary. Now, the whole thing is to reproduce what the author said. Simple. Nothing of yours should be added there. So you keep, remember, we're keeping the taste. So you always reduce the size but keep the taste, which is why you don't really need to add any foreign element, which means not your opinion or anyone else's opinion or anything that is outside the quote, the article that you're working with. So it's important to not add any foreign element. This is supposed to be a closed system. Now, important, like I mentioned, it's important to edit what you write. So you proofread and check for any spelling mistakes, punctuation mistakes, you check your grammar, and before you can then, remember, with anything that is written in English, you're supposed to have a draft. So this can work as your draft, then you cancel it out to then start doing the final thing, which is without mistakes, without errors. Then you have your summary. And the key thing to do, remember, you keep the taste, but you reduce the size. You keep the taste, you reduce the size. You keep the taste, you reduce the size. Sorry about that. You keep the taste, you reduce the size. Now, I want us to work with an article here, and I want us to really test if we do really follow through, or if we, by any chance, understand. Please bear with me for a moment. I'm just going to share the article. Okay, there we go. Here's the article. I want you to read through the article and try to summarize. I'll be giving you 10 minutes to do that.
No.
Um, 10 minutes to go through this and try to do your own summary. Okay, and we're back. I hope you've sincerely given an effort um, in doing this. Um, I don't really have much time. Um, Now, I'll just focus on these three paragraphs because of time. So, this, as the title says, the truth about fake news. Um, Already you can really think of what the article is about before reading it. When you read it, you get the general idea. They're talking about fake news and how they spread so much because of the mediums that exist. Um, Now, if you read the first one, remember I said we can deal with it um, paragraph by paragraph. If you look at the opening sentence or the topic sentence, it says historically, people have relied on such traditional media as newspaper, radio, broadcast or television mediums for global, national, or regional news. However, with the advent of social media platforms, opportunities have been created for unscrupulous people to circulate news that lacks authenticity or credibility. Already, the main idea is that with the shift from traditional ways of publishing information to the recent social media setup, credibility is lost along the way when we are publishing information already, just from reading um, the first two sentences. Now go to the second paragraph. Fake news spreads like digital wildfire on Facebook, WhatsApp, and in spaces through circulation by friends, colleagues, and families, and is dependent on people's relationships and connectivity. Already now you can add the dot. Without even reading the entire paragraph, you can see, okay, the first thing that we were introduced to is the fact that the transition from traditional ways of, or the olden ways of publishing information to the current social media setup, that has actually brought rise to fake news being published. Then further, not only are fake news being published, but they spread so quickly like wildfire. You can, like that simile, you can imagine how wildfire spread. Once it starts, it's difficult to stop it. It just spreads and spreads all the way. And sometimes if it's not really managed, it can destroy a lot of things, which is what the idea that the author is trying to bring. So the second thing that you are now introduced to is that it spreads. This fake news spreads like nobody's business. Then we look at the third one. It says the current pandemic, COVID-19, has created further opportunities for creating havoc amongst people globally. Now, because we've actually introduced social media, and that's where the fake news goes on the most, and this news spread faster. Now, they create a lot of problems in society. Now, pretty much, if you can see, I've just read the first line in all three paragraphs, but I can already tell you that this is what the writer is saying. The writer is talking about the problem started with, the initial cause is the shift or the introduction of social media, because now there's no credibility check that goes on there, and no one uh, has the time to do that credibility check. Then, as much as that is the case, the news will just spread like digital wildfire. That's one thing, and then it ends up creating problems in society. And they are quoting an example of the current pandemic, which is COVID-19. Say there are many problems that have been created by these fake news globally now. So already I have identified the main points, then what is supporting there? Now, if you look at the last line from the first paragraph, fake news can be deliberately manipulated by those with vested interest to shape and frame, control public, which results in problematic actions on existential issues such as climate change or human rights. Now we can see that there are people behind or driving this fake news, obviously. Just like it mentioned in the second sentence, to say, if you look at here is what I'm talking about. Unscrupulous people, which means evil people who seek to do harm to society. Now, these are there are people that are behind this, and they do that deliberately to actually manipulate people. And obviously, they know people would react. You know, that then now, if you can see, we're adding more flesh to our skeleton. Um, if you look at also the second paragraph, you look at the last line. These results in mass circulations of misinformation. Now, obviously, if these fake news are spread, people will be misinformed, and this spreads because you know how social media works. Like clearly, you know, social media, and you participate in those platforms. People don't really check if the information is true or not. Once they receive the information, they also share it without even wanting to check its credibility. And as a result, if you look at the last line, now we are experiencing this pandemic, COVID-19. There's a lot of fake news. There are many people saying whatever they want to say. And these fake news come from different angles, you know, from politics, from business, from, you know, many spaces of society. And obviously, they have created a lot of division in terms of what people think about this, and what should be done and what shouldn't be done. You know, and some of these things are dangerous. So this, I think, is just a warning that the author is trying to issue out to say you should be careful with this fake news. And you know, okay, but that's just a random opinion. But that's not what you should include. Remember, I said no opinion should be included. So, like, I was just showing you how simple it can be to just summarize and um, go over an article to get an overview, and then some to identify the main ideas and the supporting ideas through which you can simply summarize. Remember, the idea is to reduce the size while you maintain the taste. Sorry about that. You keep the size. Sorry, you reduce the size, but you keep the taste. That's the important thing that you need to keep in mind. I don't know if there are any questions. Any questions?